Welcome to Confessions Beyond the Food. I'm your host, Nancy Ridlen. Let's dig in and get inspired. Hi, welcome to Confessions Beyond the Food. My name is Nancy Ridlen, and I'm with W3 Sales. Today, I have Danielle Graves, a friend of mine, an industry friend, I like to call you, but she is the Director of Sales Development for Benny Keith Corporate. And we met each other a couple years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago.
I think it's been long. Yeah, it's been a long time.
It seems like it's gone by really fast, but sure. I feel like I have known you for a while.
Right.
And I really connected with Danielle because we started in this industry around the same time,
right.
And our careers have developed over the years. And Danielle was kind enough to invite me to a women's, leadership meeting, and it just really impacted me. And she was when I was thinking about doing the podcast, I actually reached out to Danielle. We went to lunch and we just kind of talked about it. And she gave me a lot of good feedback. And I just really love having you as an industry friend and a personal friend, and hearing your journey. So I'm welcoming you to listen to her journey as well. So Danielle, tell us a little bit about yourself, like your journey, like how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, first, thank you for having me on the podcast. It was so fun to sit down and have lunch with you. And whenever you asked me to be on the podcast, I just immediately said yes. No questions, no thought, no thinking involved in that, because you're just an easy person to talk to. And I knew it would be a fun conversation. And so I'm really glad to be here today in your studio for the first time. This is great. So my journey, I started at Benny Keith Foods, and that was 22 years ago. And when I started, I had recently graduated from college. I'd worked for some very large companies. I'd worked for Lockheed Martin. I'd worked for Tyco Electronics, Lucent Technologies.
Wow.
And I was just kind of jumping around as a newly graduated college kid, just trying to figure out what it is I really want to do with my life. And after being with those companies, I knew that wasn't going to be the place for me. I needed to be at a place where it was more family centric. It was going to be a little bit smaller than those companies. And since my husband had already worked at Benny Keith, he's been at Benny Keith longer than I have, I knew that would be a good spot for me. So I applied without telling him, because I didn't want him.
Really? I didn't know that part of your story.
I didn't want him to get me a job. I wanted to get a job on my own accolades. And so then after a couple of interviews, I was going back again. And finally I told him, I said, hey, I think I probably will get a job at Benny Keith Foods. He works on the beverage side. Mm-hmm. So it's two totally different types of companies. And so I started in sales. I didn't know how to be a salesperson. So I was just kind of doing the best I could. I had some really great role models and mentors, some female bosses that just really taught me what it meant to be a salesperson and to sell food. And I'm so grateful for them, those people. And one in particular still works for Benny Keith, and she's so amazing at what she does. And so I started selling. I did that for about 6 years. I wasn't great at it. I loved it. I loved the relationships. It was so much fun. But I knew that there was something different that I could be better at. And so I decided to go into purchasing at Benny Keith Foods. I did that for about 6 years. I really missed my customers. I missed that relationship with them. But I knew I didn't want to go back into sales. So I saw a really good fit for me. And Benny Keith, by the way, just really they're such an amazing company, kind of fostering all of these talents that I have along the way and pushing me to do more and helping me get where I want to be. And so I decided to go into national account sales because, again, you still have a lot of the kind of sit behind a desk work that I really thrive with, but also having relationships with customers kind of at a larger scale. And so I loved national accounts. It was so amazing, learned so much more about our industry through large chain accounts. And then after a little while, I knew that I was ready for another challenge. And that's whenever I got into sales training, which is what I do now. So, I've been doing sales training now for about 5 years. And so that's kind of the journey for the 22 years that I've been at Benny Keith.
That's incredible. I mean, it's incredible, that when you started, because when I started, there weren't very many women in our industry.
That's correct.
And so it was all men. And I had a female boss when I started that mentored me, and you did too. And it really, I think, impacted, and empowered me, to be me and bring, my skills to the table. I don't have to be a guy, to get it done. Yeah. And the guys out there are really good, by the way. Yeah. I mean, they're really good at what they do, but it was shocking to me that there weren't that many women.
It's funny because I don't know that I was necessarily shocked. I saw it. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know that was different, or, I guess I had blinders on. I felt like my job was the best me that I can be. And I didn't necessarily notice. It didn't bother me that I was the only female in the room. Mm-hmm. I just knew I can be just as good as them or better if I try hard enough. And the ginger part of it, I guess for some reason, I didn't really notice it at first. Now I just want to clear one thing up. My boss was not a female. Mm-hmm. So she was a boss in the sense of the word.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
And she just kind of held my hand, and I trained with her for probably about a year. And she pushed me along and made me feel confident and made me feel like a better person. And so I think that we all need those types of females in our lives all the time, no matter what position you're in. Yeah.
I mean, outside the industry, I mean, personally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Inside, and, you have a life outside of
this. Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, being a mom and a wife and, your community, mm-hmm. the things you do in the community, I mean, it's a lot. And so, I mean, how did you manage that? Through, because sales, I mean, on the sales side, especially the street sales, I mean, you're getting calls especially on the food side. I don't have experience on the food side. So,
well, your customers, they work such late hours, and if it's midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning and that they happen to run out of something, it wouldn't have been unusual for them to call or page or whatever the communication was. It was just happening 24/7. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a lot going on. I think that because I loved working for Benny Keith so much and I loved my job, it didn't feel like I really had to compartmentalize some of those things. It was just a part of me, being a salesperson and loving my customers and wanting their success. And building my own success, didn't feel like I needed to do that from 8 to 5 mm-hmm. Because I loved it. It was fun. I wanted to do it all day long, just like I wanted to be a great mom all day long. I didn't have to push mom from, 5 to 9. It was just all day long I can think about and love on and nurture my children. And all day long I can be a great wife as well. And so I think that just kind of for me, I was able to get everything done by not thinking of it like compartments. It's just thinking of it this is my life. I love what I do. I love every part of it. And I'm going to nurture every part of it as well as I can all day long.
That is incredible advice, guys. I mean, whether you are a female or a male, I love that. Not compartmentalizing. This mm-hmm. is part of your identity. And right. So, and it's what you do. And were you surprised how much you loved the industry, or was it instant love, or did it grow on you?
I mean, let's be real. Food service is fun. It's you're giving people what they want. They love to eat. They love to drink. They love to go out and sit down and have a nice meal. There's nothing not fun about that. Is it stressful? Absolutely. It can be stressful, but I think that the stress doesn't it's just kind of, it's not highlighted as much whenever you realize the end game of, everybody deserves to sit down in a restaurant and be served a nice meal. And that end game to me just meant more than the annoying parts of having to run to a bakery because somebody ran out of, their loaves of bread and then bringing it back to them, or running and get lemons because the bar ran out of lemons. Like that's just the stuff that happens when at the end, it's going to be this amazing experience.
Yeah. And to think about, like, I think it's so cool to see, like, we get to really see our work.
Yeah.
And
I know. How cool is that?
It's so cool. And even, not just what you see in the, when as a consumer, when you go into a restaurant and you sit down, but it's helping alleviate stress, pressure, solving problems. And that is just as rewarding as seeing, what isn't, what you can see from the outside.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it is very tangible. My grandfather, who I adored, he was an architect and he built buildings. And I just remember as a child, we would drive by certain buildings and they would say, yeah, your grandfather built that. And I would just always think, and I took drafting because I thought that's what I want to do. I want something tangible that the world can see, that everybody can consume. And I just don't see much difference in food service. Like I can see people sitting down at a restaurant. I can see them eating and enjoying the food. I can see them laughing and talking to their family and friends. And I just take just as much joy in that as seeing, the bricks and mortar of a building.
Right. Right. And you enjoying it yourself.
Of course.
All the yummy food and that you get to experience,
right.
And how much the industry has changed over the years too.
It really has. It's exciting, the changes. It's really making the industry stronger through technology and through services that we didn't have whenever I was in sales. I wasn't able to offer some of these types of services that we can now. And it's just really making our industry such a better place, a more efficient, business. I mean, everything about the changes that I've seen over the past 22 years just excites me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So overall, what are you most passionate? Because you've been through the sales, and I think it's really cool. I want to say this, that you're with a company, a very large company that fosters people so well. And they take people and they, like you said, they saw your talents and they used them, and you weren't stuck in that one position. And I think that's a great testament to Benny Keith.
Oh, absolutely. They've done that throughout my entire career. But the first part you asked, what am I passionate about? Being director of sales development, I think it just comes with, I've always had this in me, but the reason I love it so much is because I'm so passionate about learning, education, growth, development, all of those things. And so being able to kind of foster that, push it along at Benny Keith, create curriculums that I know are at the end are going to help people be better salespeople and just, be more successful. And so that is what I'm passionate about. I love seeing people learn and grow and be successful. And like you said, Benny Keith has done that for me in such a big way, to where I know that there are pretty much no boundaries and no limits. Benny Keith they put me through leadership development programs. They let me go to women's conferences. There's the career coaching. They'll pay for your education if you want to go get a grad degree or master's or whatever. And so I think that I'm so lucky that the company I work for also is passionate about learning and development and growth. And that just makes my job so much easier.
Mm-hmm. And you have so much street cred because you've been there. You've been because you're not just training salespeople, you're training, all different for the orientation. You're training all different types of people that are coming in.
Oh, yes. The people that we bring into our industry is such a huge mix of folks. And so in one class and your audience that you're trying to talk to, I always say, know your audience, know who you're talking to, but it can be a challenge because you'll have people that have just graduated from college that know nothing about the food service industry, you'll have people that have been selling food for quite some time and have decided to make a change and come to Benny Keith. You're going to have people in your audience that have worked at the back of a kitchen for most of their lives since they were a teenager, and they know everything there is to know about the minutia of food. And, restaurant owners, there's so many different types of walks of lives that come in and decide that they want to work and sell food. And so it just makes that job, one, I said, a little challenging, but two, just a little more fun, because you get such a diverse group of people that you get to know and see and learn and learn from. And I just can't think of a better, at the same time, we all have a common goal, right? But I can't think of a better audience to be able to talk to and to get to know. And it just makes my job that much more fun.
Well, I mean, Danielle, I've gotten to experience, multiple trainings, and just seeing the level of detail that you put into the little part that I have in it. I get to listen to her introduction, and it's just, she makes, before they even walk in, she knows all about them. Mm-hmm. She knows their story. She's shared their story with all the vendors, because she wants us to know them too. Like who are you? Prepare us so well.
Thank you.
And it's so thoughtful. And when they come in, they know what is happening over the next couple of days. And Danielle, over the years, just watching you, you're so inspiring and training yourself, because you're always looking for different ways to get engagement and to encourage us as, vendors and coming in to train people. But it's just really encouraging as a trainer, just walking in, seeing all the details you put in, because it's a lot of work, and they walk away with great knowledge and seeing the bigger picture, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see it any different as inviting someone into your home. Whenever you want to welcome people, you want to know who they are. You want to have an idea of who this person is before they even get there. You want to know that, what is your favorite wine? Are you gluten-free? Are you dairy-free? I want to customize the experience to every single person coming in. And I have that same expectation for our manufacturers that are training our folks. I just need them to be excited about training. You've done this for many, many years. And so sometimes it's easy to get stuck in a rut and say, I'm just going to do the same presentation. I'm going to say the same words that I did 5 years ago or even last year. But the fact of the matter is, like you said earlier, our industry is changing and things evolve. And so if you're saying the same thing you did last year, I feel like you're already behind. Like, we need to excite these people. We need to be up to date. We need to know exactly who our audience is. We need to welcome them and make them feel great about being here. And honestly, it's really easy for me to make them feel great about Benny Keith, because there's so much backing behind everything that I say. I know that if I say it, Benny Keith will do it. And we call everybody that works for us as just a part of the family, and we treat them as such. So it just really makes my job easier to work with manufacturers and preferred partners like you and many others that share that same value set, that have, we're all like-minded. And I think that as soon as I met you, like you said earlier, just talking to you, it doesn't take long to realize that when you work for great companies, they attract talent. And you and I were so like-minded and just clicked from the very start. So it just makes it so much easier to work with you and many others.
Well, right back at you. So, but yeah, super fun. So if you were to tell your, 22 years ago, you must have been like, what? 10. And so what would you tell your 10-year-old self? So about where you were going to, or, before, when you got in the industry, what would you tell yourself?
I think that's an easy one for me, looking back on it. Of course, it's easy to look back and find things that you could have done differently or possibly could have done better. Of course, I wouldn't want to change anything because it was who I was and it created who I am now. But I wish that I had been a little bit more focused on the people around me. I think when I first started, I felt like I was so into self-promotion, and just I was so entirely focused on how I can succeed and how I can carve my path and how I can do better every single day. And what I've learned, I don't know if it's age or experience or what happens, or if it's just being a mother. What I've learned is that it's even more important and more fulfilling and gratifying is whenever you encourage and promote the people around you more so than yourself. And so if I could go back and tell myself 22 years ago, I'm not going to reveal my age, but I would say just stop and take a look around you and notice the people around you and elevate them, make them feel better, highlight their successes, give them a high five or a hug. I think I could have done a better job at that. But I have evolved into realizing that is very important for me.
Well, you did a lot of things right. That's what I would have told you at 22. Like, you have an amazing career path, and you are going to be like a big time leader at, corporate, and all the people that you influence and impact. I mean, that's so cool. I mean, that's what I would tell you. You have a really great story. And do you ever feel like, just hearing you say, I was always looking for self-promotion, because for me, it was, as soon as I closed one thing, I was right. I didn't celebrate the win. And I think over time, I'm trying to train myself to enjoy the moment, enjoy the moments I'm in. I love that, like caring for others, but also for yourself. Did you feel like that, or?
Yeah, a little bit. I think you're right. When you're in go mode, there's really not a lot of time to stop and think about it. Whenever I was in food sales 22 years ago and I started, I had the Dallas Cowboys as one of my customers. And so a lot of people would say, how cool is that? Like, isn't that amazing that you get to go to Cowboy Stadium every day? And it just seemed very prestigious. But like you said, I really didn't see it that way. It was, I didn't stop and look around and go, look how great this is. It was just like, let's make sure we're servicing them well. Let's foster those relationships. I didn't see it as being the Dallas Cowboys. I saw it as being another one of my customers that I loved, and I wanted them to have success. So you're right. I think as you go along, and again, it probably comes with age, is that you kind of sit back and you look around and see what's happening around you. I think because I can with my job role, and things have slowed down a little bit. And I think that you put people around you too that can help you, so that you can take a minute and go, you're surrounded by capable people. Let them do that job and, move on and look around and see what everybody's doing and just track those successes. And again, like I said, give them a high five, give those people around you a high five, and really celebrate the moments.
And shout out to Chef Eduardo.
Oh gosh, I love Chef Eduardo.
Me too. I actually called on them too. So we were competitors back in the day. So on the in the non-food side.
Sure.
But so in your position now, what do you think is the most rewarding thing? And if there's anything additional you want to touch on.
Yeah, I think, like I said, because I can be in more of a leadership role to help train and develop, to me, none of that means anything unless these people are actually trained and developed. And so whenever we complete certain trainings, you send them off. And then, of course, the analytical side of me will certainly go back in and start tracking numbers and watching growth and success. And I think to me that is not just the numbers, but knowing the satisfaction of saying, like, I had such a small part of that growth and success. And just knowing that, I can encourage them and I can keep pushing them along, and I can continue with training as much as they're willing to open up to it and learn from it. And to me, that's the best part of my job, is watching people go and just do the things that we suggest and be successful.
It's really cool. I mean, do you remember? I mean, I do. I remember my first introduction into, my first job in food service at R.W. Smith. I remember all the people, the customer, going out to California and for 3 weeks and learning. And I mean, I'll never forget it. I mean, I'm still friends with, you know, the people that I met. I mean, I don't know if you had the same experience, if they had similar programs back then.
The initial training, yeah, we did. We had a similar experience, honestly, to what we do today. I'd like to say it's very much elevated from what it was 22 years ago. But you come in with a particular group that's all started at the same time, and you feel bonded with them. And it was a lot of fun to then go on promotion trips and see them and meet their spouses and get to know their families. And then, yeah, you just kind of have that certain bond. Several of the people that I went through in my initial training have now retired, and they're living their best lives, and they're doing amazing. But yeah, I do remember all of those people.
Yeah. And they're going to remember you, 22 years down the road. And what an impact you make on their lives. And so many young people, so many people that have been in the industry. It's kind of hard when you're training because you really have to adapt to the person that this is their first job. Right. Maybe they were part of your intern program. And then you have somebody that's been in the industry for a billion years, right. On the operations side. And then you have the person that's done this job and has made it into, has moved over to Benny Keith. And so you're talking to multiple levels and you're really good at tailoring it to everyone.
Thank you.
But I've really enjoyed having you today, but I can't let you go without your confession.
Okay. So you and I talked about this just a little bit. I came up with this confession last minute, but it is 100% true. Like you said, we've been through so many trainings. I've been through countless product trainings, worked with all different types of food. But at the end of the day, if I'm being real and honest, my confession is I have absolutely no idea how to cook. I could not cook you a meal if you asked me to. And if you did ask me to, you would never do so again. And so I don't know how. After all of those trainings, I haven't learned how to do this myself. I can tell you how to do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah, you could just eat at the training, bring some stuff home. Is that what you did?
I do bring a lot of stuff home, but luckily I have an amazing cook at home. My husband loves cooking. He does it very well. He gets very, very nervous when he sees me in the kitchen. If I'm doing anything other than pouring a drink, it's just not going to be good.
That's awesome. That's a great confession. We won't hold that against you.
Okay, thank you.
Because your passion for the industry exudes all of that. So no one's judging. But thank you so much for being here. I'm going to have Danielle back, so stay tuned, but she's just an amazing, she's inspirational to me, and I've learned a lot from her, and I hope you have too today, whether, you've been in, like we said, you're curious about our industry and getting into it.
Absolutely.
A female, just you're struggling but I hope this was helpful to you because it's always fun to be around other like-minded people. And so that love the industry, love what they do. And put 110 in everything. So, and make everyone feel special. That's what I feel like you do.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This has been such fun. Thank you. It's been lovely. I'll come back anytime.
Oh my gosh. I knew it'd be fun with you. So you'll be back. Thank you guys so much for joining today, and follow us, subscribe to all the channels, and we appreciate you joining in. For more inspiration, follow our social media at W3Sales. Please like, comment, and subscribe. All the things. We would love to connect with you.